Singapore Airlines Flight 6 taxis to the runway through heavy wind and rain at Taipei's Chiang Kai-shek Airport. Taiwan sits inside Asia's infamous Typhoon Alley, and tonight, the island nation is bracing for the worst. Typhoon Jiangseng, with winds of 99 miles an hour, is closing in fast. Flight 6 needs to get airborne before the brunt of the storm hits. There are 179 people on board the overnight flight to Los Angeles, including business traveler Francois Perron.
Sleepy.
Stell, have you just come out the shower? Your hair's still wet.
Perron has requested an aisle seat. The only one available on this flight is in row 65, the second to the last row of the plane. He has no idea how important his seating assignment will become.
Singapore 6, for your information, surface wind 020 at 24, gust 43.
Thank you, sir. Singapore 6.
Let me know when it hits 30.
If the crosswind hits 30 knots, the crew will have to abandon their takeoff.
Singapore 6, you are cleared for takeoff, runway 05 left.
Okay, thrust left, toga, toga. Okay, my control.
Captain Fu Chi Kong decides to proceed with the takeoff.
V1.
V1.
For some reason, I really wanted to sleep with Don Hong tonight. So I ran over.
You... Don't say it like that!
I can't.
You can. Can you at least dry off before jumping into bed?
Okay.
Systems damage. Systems.
The plane's tanks are loaded with 15,000 gallons of fuel.
Direct emergency vehicles to runway 05 left.
Garuda Indonesia Flight 152 left the Indonesian capital of Jakarta nearly 90 minutes ago. Headed northwest, it's expected to arrive at its destination in about half an hour.
Pardon the intrusion. About the data.
Oh, it's you, Don Hong. What about the data?
Forest fires in Sumatra have sent a thick blanket of smoke across all of Southeast Asia.
My clothes? I'm hanging them up to dry right now. They got a bit soggy on the previous trip.
Any second now, the controller expects to see Flight 152 turn onto final approach.
What?
Climb! Climb! Climb!
My eyes. We need to get Stell more clothes.
You too, huh?
The die is cast. With every second, the KLM is going faster and faster. At the same moment, the Pan Am reaches the number 4 exit and begins to turn off the runway.
God damn, that son of a bitch is coming straight at us!
Hey, what are you doing? Still, you ain't sleep yet? I can't sleep, so I made this cup of milk. Do you want it too? Then, I'm sorry for bothering you. I will go back to my room now. Good night, Dane. Can you stay with me for a little longer? So, what is it? You can tell me everything about your worry. I'm with you. It's just a nightmare.
Get off, get off! Get off, get off, get off!
Hey, what are you doing? Still, you ain't sleep yet? I can't sleep, so I made this cup of milk. Do you want it too? Then, I'm sorry for bothering you. I will go back to my room now. Good night, Davey. And you stay with me for a little longer. So, what is it? You can tell me everything about your worry.
Get off!
It's just a nightmare.
But frustratingly, the plane continues heading off to the northwest, away from both Haneda Airport and Yokota Air Base. Now, with every rise and fall of the plane, they're barely above the mountaintops.
Can you control the aircraft now?
An ominous silence descends on area control.
Japan Air 123, switch your radio frequency to 119.7. 119.7, please.
They try changing radio frequency.
If you can, change the frequency to 119.7.
There is no reply.
If you read come up on 119.7, we are all ready.
For some reason, I really wanted to sleep with Don Hong tonight. So I ran over.
Japan Air 123, yes, we've selected 119.7. What is our position?
Your position 4-5 miles northwest of Haneda.
In the tensions of the moment, the controller is a bit confused and mistakes the plane's distance from Haneda.
Northwest of Haneda? How many miles?
Yes, that is correct. On our radar, you're 55 miles northwest. We are ready for your approach at any time. Yokota is also available for landing. Let us know your intentions. Over.
At Haneda Airport, emergency services are being mobilized for the plane, wherever it can touch down.
Yes, roger. They say we're 25 miles west of Kumagaya.
Suddenly, the plane goes into a steep dive, the worst yet.
Stop the flap! Power! Flap up! Flap up! Flap up! Power! Power!
The plane is falling at 5,500 meters a minute.
Raise the nose!
It's just a nightmare.
Get off! Get off! Get off!
Japan Air 123. Japan Air 123. Can you hear me?
Japan Air 123, Japan Air 123, do you read?
Japan Air 123.
Japan Air 123.
Japan Air 123 is gone.
Air Asia Flight 8501 cruises high above the Java Sea north of Indonesia. The pilot in command is 53-year-old Captain Irianto. He's highly experienced with more than 20,000 hours in the air. His first officer is French national Rémy Emmanuel Plaizel. He is 46 with about 2,000 flight hours, much of it on the Airbus. 22 minutes into the flight, the pilots notice bad weather ahead on their radar. The captain decides to increase altitude to go above the storm clouds in their path.
I'm gonna radio for a higher cruise. Get around that weather.
Good idea.
But before the captain can contact air traffic control, he gets a fault warning from the flight computer.
ECAM actions?
The plane's sophisticated computers give the pilot step-by-step instructions on how to fix the issue. The pilots now notice that the plane is rolling sharply left.
Level. Okay, level.
Something is going terribly wrong with Flight 8501. The first officer is struggling.
Level.
But soon the plane is rolling again.
Level!
I'm trying.
The pilots can't seem to regain control.
It's not responding. Pull down. It's not correcting.
The plane seems to have taken on a life of its own. It climbs higher and higher as the pilots fight to level off. Then, inexplicably, the plane starts to drop.
Altitude. I see it.
Flight 8501 is plummeting from the sky, speeding toward the ocean below.
Sleepy.
Stell, have you just come out to shower?
It seems the pilots can do nothing to save their plane.
Pull. It's not correcting. What's going on? Max power. Slowly.
For some reason, I really wanted to sleep with Don Hong tonight.
43 minutes into what should have been a normal 2-hour flight.
So I ran over.
Air Asia Flight 8501 disappears from radar.
Pull! I'm trying. Pull! It's not correcting.
You... Don't say it like that!
I can't.
Of the 162 passengers and crew, there are no survivors. It's just after 5 a.m. in Jakarta, Indonesia, as 181 passengers settle in for a short domestic flight. Lion Air Flight 610 is a 90-minute journey from Jakarta over the Java Sea to Bangka Island. At 6:20,
rotate.
The MAX 8 lifts off the runway at Jakarta. But immediately there's trouble. The captain's control yoke starts shaking, a warning that the plane is about to stall.
Takeoff config.
Okay, but what?
The pilots can't identify the source of the problem. They have no choice but to continue climbing.
Lion 610, fly heading 248 and follow standard instrument departure.
Lion Air 610.
The air traffic controller has no idea that there's an issue in the cockpit.
Oh no, you're still my favorite Videodara dragon.
The pilots get a warning that their airspeed indicators do not agree.
Airspeed disagree. What's going on? Should we request a return to Jakarta?
Landing gear up.
Oh no, you're still my favorite Videodara dragon.
610. Climb to flight level 270.
Still unaware of any trouble, the controller instructs the crew to continue climbing to 27,000 feet.
Wait, we're in public.
Altitude disagree.
The first officer now notices that the altimeters also show conflicting readings.
Acknowledged, altitude disagree.
The situation is deteriorating quickly. Now flying 5,000 feet above the sea, Captain Sinasia struggles to keep the plane's nose up.
Flight path vector may be unreliable.
Lion 610, turn right, heading 070 to avoid traffic ahead.
Set the pitch attitude. Roger, heading 070.
Flight 610 is flying erratically over the Java Sea and becoming increasingly more difficult to control. Controller allows Flight 610 to fly at any altitude the pilots choose.
Please clear 3,000 above and below of traffic.
Okay, will do. What altitude would you like?
It's diving.
It's diving.
It's okay.
Flight 610 is now speeding towards the sea,
Airspeed.
and the pilots are out of options.
Fly up.
Wait, we're in public.
30 minutes after crashing into the Java Sea, the wreckage of Lion Air Flight 610 is located. There are no survivors. In Douala, Cameroon, Kenya Airways Flight 507 is almost an hour behind schedule.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to wait for the weather conditions to improve before we take off.
A severe storm must pass before the pilots can depart.
Tower, Kenya 507. Looks like there's a break in the weather. Requesting startup.
Okay, 507. Startup approved.
Startup checklist. Quickly, please.
Generators on.
A few minutes before midnight, Flight 507 is finally ready for takeoff.
Okay. Takeoff thrust is set. Speed building on board.
Check.
80 knots.
Check.
V1. Rotate.
Just after midnight, Kenya Airways Flight 507 finally departs for Nairobi.
Allah! Bank angle.
Suddenly, the 737 rolls dangerously to the right.
Allah!
The captain fights to level the plane.
Bank angle.
But it continues banking further and further right.
Bank angle.
Despite the pilot's efforts, they keep rolling.
We're crashing!
Yeah, we are crashing! Left! Left! Left correction!
Bank angle.
5 hours later, the controller in Douala is ending his shift.
Is there something on my face?
You really like those burgers, huh? Here.
Kenya Airways Flight 507 should have landed in Nairobi 45 minutes ago, but the plane has still not arrived.
Sure.
And no one even knows where to start looking for it. Two days later, search teams finally locate the wreckage of Kenya 507. It's 3.5 miles southeast of Douala Airport. The 737 has crashed into a mangrove swamp and is submerged in mud and water. There are no survivors. Pakistan International Airlines Flight 268 is en route to Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. On the flight deck, Captain Iftikhar Janjua is in command. He's a former officer in the Pakistani Air Force who's now a senior pilot instructor with the airline. The first officer is Hassan Akhtar, a junior pilot with the airline with almost 1,500 hours flying the Airbus A300. Flight 268 leaves its cruising altitude as it begins the approach into Kathmandu. In 1992, Kathmandu Airport doesn't use radar to track its planes. Every movement, planned or otherwise, must be accurately reported by the flight crew. The mountains surrounding Kathmandu require pilots to make what's known as a stepped approach. Pilots must descend to a series of lower altitudes at certain distances from the airport.
Here it is. Watch my levels.
The details of the stepped approach are laid out on a chart for the pilots. The crew works its way through the steps towards Kathmandu, approaching from the south. They should be touching down in about 6 minutes.
Alpha Charlie Hotel, continue to taxiway number 2.
Pakistan 268 is at 10 miles.
Who gave it to you?
Huh? My client gave me this. For a reward.
We crossed out of 8,500.
200 now.
Roger. Clear for final.
Why can't I use a Kanzashi?
We'll call you at 4 miles, Pakistan 268. Clear for final, runway 02.
Runway 02.
Flight 268 is now less than 10 miles from the runway. Air traffic control waits for the flight crew's next position report. 3 minutes go by. Flight 268 should have reported that they've reached the next step by now.
Pakistan 268 Tower.
I picked it because it looked like Danhang's color.
Pakistan 268, this is Tower.
As the minutes tick by, air traffic controllers come to a horrifying realization. Flight 268 is missing somewhere in the Himalayas. It doesn't take much time for Kathmandu air traffic controllers to get word that PIA Flight 268 has crashed somewhere in the Himalayas. Within hours, the plane's wreckage is found on the side of a mountain. The flight was carrying more than 20 tons of fuel, and the plane is completely consumed by fire. All 167 people on board have died. Polish Air Force Flight 101 is carrying 89 passengers, including President Lech Kaczynski. 4 of Poland's best pilots are in the cockpit. They're elite military airmen from the country's Special Aviation Regiment. Just after 10 o'clock, the plane begins its descent to Smolensk. The state flight from Warsaw took off at 9:27 this morning. Few understand Poland's troubled past better than President Kaczynski. By visiting a memorial near the site of the massacre, the Polish president is taking an important step towards reconciliation. The elite crew is flying a Tupolev Tu-154M, an extremely popular Russian-built plane. As they get closer to the airport, the workload picks up. Flight engineer Andrzej Mikalik must calculate engine performance.
May I please have the temperature and pressure?
I'll tell you what the temperature is. Cold.
He needs some vital information from the tower.
Are we going to speak Russian?
Yes.
English is the international language of civil aviation. But since Smolensk is a military airport, controllers here speak only Russian. Passenger jets don't normally land at this base. But for the Polish delegation, it's the closest runway to the Katyn Memorial. Captain Arkadiusz Protaziuk is the only member of this Polish crew who speaks Russian. He'll have to handle the communication with the tower.
Polski 101, Polish 101. Good morning.
Polish 101 acknowledge. Polish Air Force, we have fog. Visibility 400 meters.
Understood.
Polish Air Force 101.
Heavy fog visibility is only 400 meters.
Smolensk Air Base doesn't have the equipment needed for a radio-guided landing. The pilots will first have to descend to just above 300 feet, then look for the runway. Once they spot it, they will have to land manually.
Temperature and pressure, please.
Temperature is +2, pressure 745. We do not have landing conditions.
I'm here to play Danhang.
Continuing our approach, if we're unable to land, we'll go around on autopilot.
Captain Protaziuk takes his plane lower to get a first-hand look at landing conditions. But as they get closer, the fog gets even thicker.
Danhang, I'm here to play.
On course.
It's you again.
Then, the situation takes a turn for the worse. As the crew strains to catch sight of the runway, the sound of an alarm suddenly fills the cockpit.
I like the color of your boxers.
I didn't ask you to pay attention to me like that.
100 meters.
Terrain.
We are leaving for a go-around.
90 meters.
But the crew is struggling to make the plane climb.
Please pay attention. I hope you can understand how a guy feels on levels 18.
Sorry. I'll be careful.
No one has survived. It's a monumental tragedy. One of the darkest days in Polish history. A day that was to have been commemorated by the president himself will now be remembered for yet another tragedy. At Los Angeles International Airport, United Airlines Flight 718 is preparing to depart for Chicago. At 9:04 in the morning, Flight 718 lifts off from Los Angeles. Captain Shirley must follow an assigned corridor through the airspace around Los Angeles. After that, he's free to fly wherever he wants, as long as he reports in, passing a series of waypoints along the route to Chicago. 54 minutes into the flight, the DC-7 reaches its second waypoint. The crew will next check in when they cross a point on the map known as the Painted Desert Line. Cruising at 21,000 feet, the crew spots thunderclouds ahead and adjusts their course.
Too loud. Ugh. Turn it off.
Shocked passengers have no idea what's gone wrong.
Oh God! Bank! Come on, baby, come on!
Flight 718 is overdue to check in. Calls from dispatch go unanswered.
You turn it off.
Air Traffic Control Headquarters in Salt Lake City.
CA Salt Lake.
Controllers here don't normally communicate directly with flight crews. They get flight information by phone from airline dispatchers who are in radio contact with their pilots.
Oh my God!
At 10:51, they get a disturbing call from United Airlines dispatch.
Salt Lake.
Ew!
Understand.
Ew!
United 718,
What are
20
you
minutes
doing in my
overdue.
bed?
Painted.
I should be asking you that! You're the one butt-ass naked in my bed!
Moments later, another dispatcher calls. More disturbing news.
Sleepy.
Stell, have you just come out the shower? Your hair's still wet.
Controllers now know that two planes flying from LA have not reported crossing a scheduled waypoint, the Painted Desert Line. United Flight 718 and TWA Flight 2 to Kansas City were both expected to reach that waypoint at 10:31. Controllers send out a bulletin asking local authorities to keep an eye out for the two missing planes. The next morning, news comes from authorities in Arizona, confirming everyone's worst fears.
They found him?
The remains of two different planes have been spotted in Arizona's Grand Canyon. The twisted wreckage of United 718 lies on a rocky ledge 688 feet up the sheer canyon wall. The Air Tour pilot spots the second crash site on the floor of the canyon, about 1 mile away. The immediate priority is to get rescuers into one of the least accessible places in North America. When rescuers finally reach the crash area, they first find the scattered remains of TWA Flight 2. Reaching the wreckage of the other plane will be even more difficult. It's not long before rescuers come to a grim conclusion. Everyone aboard both planes is dead. It is now up to investigators from the Civil Aeronautics Board to piece together what happened. January 25th, 2010. It's just past midnight at Beirut's International Airport. Captain Habtamu Nagasa has been flying with Ethiopian Airlines for over 20 years and has more than 10,000 hours in the cockpit.
Exterior checks complete.
Check complete, no problems.
The first officer is far less experienced. Alula Bayene is a recent graduate of the Ethiopian Airlines Flight Academy. Tonight, there are 82 passengers aboard the Boeing 737. They are preparing for an overnight flight to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Flight 409's flight plan calls for it to head southwest, then make a U-turn towards a navigational checkpoint called Cheka. Ethiopian Airlines 409 lifts off just after 2:30 in the morning. The captain begins banking the plane to the right as he climbs.
Ethiopian 409, control 19-3, Masalama.
The tower controller bids the crew goodbye and hands the flight off to a colleague.
No. You're still my favorite Videodara dragon.
The area controller instructs Flight 409 to climb to 29,000 feet.
Flight level 290, Ethiopian 409.
But the weather ahead is becoming fierce. Just a few minutes into the flight, something is going wrong. An alarm warns the crew that their turn is becoming dangerously steep. Captain Nagasa is struggling to correct the problem. He veers back to the left towards the thunderstorm the controller wants him to avoid.
No.
The controller sees that Flight 409 is starting to veer back towards Beirut. He warns the pilots again that they need to turn.
Ethiopian 409.
Follow heading 270.
Turn right, heading 270.
Right, heading 270, roger.
Okay, what heading did he say?
270, set.
Wait, we're in public.
The cockpit fills with a disturbing sound.
What is it?
The control columns vibrate, warning them that the plane is about to stall.
Speed! What is it? Go around, go around.
Roger, go around.
The captain pushes the throttle all the way up to go around power. But their situation is even more dire.
Is there something on my face?
God! Oh God! Oh God!
As day breaks, wreckage begins to wash up on shore. Navy ships recover floating debris and some human remains. 82 passengers and 8 crew are dead.
Okay, Director Gary.
Malaysia 370, thank you.
The 777 is one of the most automated airplanes in the world. The crew can simply enter the location of the waypoint into their flight computer.
Gary is entered. Please confirm.
Execute.
Another day, another boring mission. I wonder if you can bring me a different melody.
Malaysian 370's flight path will now take them along the air corridor that runs northeast over the Gulf of Thailand, before continuing on to Beijing. The trip takes about 6 hours.
Malaysia 370.
Maintaining level 350.
20 minutes after takeoff, they reach cruising altitude, 35,000 feet.
Pardon the intrusion. About the data.
Oh, it's you, Danhang. What about the data?
The crew will now monitor the autopilot until they're ready to land. Controllers in Kuala Lumpur will only track the plane while it's in Malaysian airspace. About 20 minutes more. As the plane crosses the Gulf of Thailand, controllers in Vietnam will take over. The controller in Kuala Lumpur makes one last transmission at 1:19 a.m.
370, contact Ho Chi Minh, 120.9.
Good night.
Good night, Malaysia 370.
Oh.
Huh? Eh? Huh? Wait, we're in public.
The crew is expected to contact Vietnamese controllers in less than 1 minute. But 19 minutes later, there's no word from Flight 370.
Malaysian 370, this is Ho Chi Minh. Please contact control.
Malaysia 370.
Controllers in Vietnam and Malaysia tried desperately to reach the missing plane.
Malaysia 370, do you copy? Malaysia 370, this is Kuala Lumpur, do you copy?
There's no response from the cockpit, and no sign of the plane on radar. Flight 370 has vanished without a trace.
It's a quiet Sunday evening at Amsterdam Schiphol Airport.
Everybody ready for takeoff?
It's all looking good.
An El Al cargo jet is fueled and ready to depart for Tel Aviv. The freighter's 4 massive Pratt & Whitney engines pump out 200,000 pounds of thrust.
I'm sorry if I'm too stiff. This is the first time I've kissed someone on the lips. And also, moving our tongues a bit.
210. Flight level 210, roger.
The controller clears them for a climb to 21,000 feet. Everything seems normal for the first 7 minutes of flight.
Don't worry, Bronya's like that too.
Bronya? This isn't your first time? When? Where?
Your hands are gripping a little too tightly.
What the hell?
The 747 is rolling violently to the right.
Answer now.
I don't know why she's so cute when she's angry.
Speedbird 943, climb flight level 280.
At Schiphol Air Traffic Control, the evening routine is about to be shattered.
Hello, 1862. Mayday, Mayday, we have an emergency.
LL 1862, do you wish to return to Schiphol?
Affirmative. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday.
Turn right, heading 260.
The crew now has a heading back to the airport. But with hydraulics failing, the captain is having more and more difficulty controlling the plane.
I'm sorry if I'm too stiff. This is the first time I've kissed someone on the lips.
Flight 1862 is less than 3 minutes from landing. The plane is once again rolling to the right, and this time it's worse.
And also, moving our tongues
Further
a
right,
bit.
heading 310.
Don't worry, Bronya's like that too.
Controllers urge the pilots to correct their course to the
Your hands
runway.
are gripping a little too tightly.
Answer now.
I don't know why she's so cute when she's angry.
Problem? No, come on! Going down! Going down, 1862 going down. Going down. Come on!
LL 1862 has slammed into an 11-story apartment block. The Beale-Mermere apartment complex, home to thousands of people, is engulfed in flames. The next morning, daylight reveals the overwhelming scale of the disaster. The plummeting jet has cut the apartment block completely in two. There's almost nothing left of the plane. No one aboard has survived.
We gotta turn. We'll have to use differential power. Disengage auto throttle. Pull back 3 and 4.
Captain Reyes increases thrust to the engines on the left-hand side of the plane and reduces power to the engines on the right. Very slowly, the aircraft starts to circle right. He then lowers his speed to make a similar radius turn. With guidance from air traffic control, Reyes hopes that the maneuver will eventually line up with a runway at Naha.
So while we were descending on low speed, I tried to test the flight controls, and there are some little reactions.
The elevator is beginning to respond. Dex.
The elevator is a control that makes the plane ascend and descend.
250 knots. Flaps 1, on speed.
In order to land safely, Reyes will need at least minimal control over the elevator and rudder.
Flaps 5.
As PAL-434 nears Naha, he continues to reduce his airspeed.
Flaps 10 set. Speed 225.
Okay, she's turning.
Sir, if we reduce our weight, we will be able to reduce our approach and landing speeds. Suggest we dump fuel.
Sige, magaling.
Reyes orders the systems engineer to dump 36 tons of fuel.
5 minutes, 20,000 pounds.
Less fuel means less strain on landing gear and brakes at touchdown.
I was terrified when I saw the smoke trail behind each wing. I thought something must be burning and there would be another explosion.
As touchdown gets closer, Reyes worries that the bomb may have done more yet unknown damage to the aircraft.
I'm not certain our landing gear will hold up. Strap yourself in. I'll brief the purser.
So he talked to the head of the cabin crew and he said, "We're not sure if the gears will go down, and in case the gears collapse while landing, be ready to evacuate."
It's either you make it or you die. That's because you cannot do anything anymore.
Runway in sight.
With only minimal control over the aircraft, Reyes faces the most challenging landing of his career. As PAL-434 starts its final approach, the 292 people on board are pinning their hopes of survival on the skill of the cockpit crew.
Kiss.
Gear down.
So, we kissed already. Will I get pregnant? Are we going to have a child?
I think you need to learn more about that.
So that's it? Looks like I need to learn more about this kind of thing.
Okay. I'm disconnecting the autopilot and landing manually, okay? Dex, monitor my descent rate, call altitude and speed. Flaps 30.
Okay, 500 feet on course.
Flaps 30 set.
Help me with the elevator. When I say push, I want you to push.
Okay, 200 slightly left.
Correcting. Push.
100. 50. 30. Power off. Pull.
Your last command was pull.
Yeah, my last command was pull.